the standards of care say that kids should get like 1 to 2 years of therapy before they transition. So that might be too conservative, but
No,
yeah, something like that.
Okay, so what's the issue?
So then what's the problem?
Those are the new standards of care. The question is whether people are following them.
Oh, Lord, no. No. What? I mean, true. When you're prescribed a set of pills, who knows how many someone's going to take at any given time, if they take them at all, or if they take too many, that can happen. Yeah, I mean, it's not as if we monitor people's healthcare at home 24/7 all the time. That is true. That would be a lot of resources. Gotcha. Checkmate. All right. Time for the fun half.
We have time for one more call. We'll try this one. Call from 617, another Boston
Hey,
area
man, it's
code.
Jesse Singal.
Oh, it's Jesse Singal. Hello, Jesse.
Here we go.
How's it going, man?
Giddy up.
Good. We can't hear you.
By the way, no spoilers. I think I'm the only person on the internet who has not seen this already. I know that every centrist like Destiny and Adam Sitch have already reviewed this, and I know there's multiple videos out already. I have not watched them. I am pure going into this with the purest of heart, the baddest of faith. I'm ready.
Very well. Can you speak into your phone?
Yeah. Are you on the headphones?
Hold on one sec.
No, y'all haven't seen it either. Good. Let's have fun.
That any better?
Not great, but we can try and can we put them up a little bit? All right, Jesse. So you wanted to call him for a while. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, thanks to Emma. She's going to come on my podcast, Blocked and Reported. I appreciate that. It takes some guts to do that, given our disagreements. But I'm basically just like calling in because I committed to doing so. I'm a little bit.
You don't feel. You should not feel obligated whatsoever. I'm perfectly willing to. I didn't consider it a commitment. I wasn't anticipating it. So don't feel in any way obligated whatsoever.
I think it's okay. I do feel obligated. I said I would do it. I want to honor that. But I feel like Twitter causes a lot of division and drama, and I've contributed to it. I just think there's probably
I would agree with that.
I think there's probably a fair amount we agree on some of the stuff you guys discuss, including just how bad it is to try to ban youth gender medicine. That was something I wrote about in May of 2020, before it was a national story. I also think there's probably some areas where there's a little bit of disagreement, but they tend to be edge cases, just stuff where there's probably going to have to be some, debate and compromise. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know. I've been writing about science for a decade, and
what do you mean by youth gender medicine?
But here's the thing.
Clarify that, please.
Jesse, I just want to make something clear. I don't care where we agree on. That is, I can't tell you how irrelevant it is to me what we agree on, whether it's in the context of trans stuff, whether it's in the context of any other politics. Wholly irrelevant. I don't care what kind of person you are. I don't care what your belief system is. None of that is relevant. The reason why I think you are toxic and at best extremely unhelpful in this area is that you distort the importance of this issue and are so fervent at pointing out this minutia that I consider minutia in the face of what is actually happening on the ground. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. That's not you, but it's an analogy, and it's an extreme one. But that's
hey, just because we have limited time, could we just keep this to stuff I've written that you have?
No,
that you disagree
because
with, so
I don't because no, it's not even there's a specific no. Because it's not even that there's a specific thing that I take issue with, because that in some ways is exactly what the indicative of the same problem. And I will do this. It's I know that you feel that you are just writing stuff that you think is accurate, very technically accurate, that your issue was in insisting and in highlighting this clip that no one had seen really until you promoted it, that in the words saying that when Matt said your lies were cited by Republican attorney generals, for whatever reason, when we did this email exchange and you put out a little clip of it, you didn't use, you said conservatives. I was confused by that because maybe I thought you were talking about something different. But my issue with what you do, okay, is best summed up in this analogy. And again, this is an analogy that's extreme, but it makes the case, is that back in 2004, there was a writer who wanted to argue, and you remember what was happening in 2004, 2005 in Iraq. Maybe it was before your time, I'm not sure. Who wanted to argue that there is nuance in the context of the torture debate. And by, sort of showing that within the context of the torture debate, there were nuanced instances where the idea of saying that torture is bad is inaccurate because there were nuanced instances where that was okay. And I think the headline was in defense of torture. And it was published on the Huffington Post at a time where
that's completely grotesque.
Yes, I'm sure I use this example because I knew you would think it was grotesque. But why is it grotesque? Because this writer claimed that, like, look, I don't want to talk. I'm not trying to talk over you, but can you just give me something to latch onto? A problem you have with my work, not with the work of someone. No, well, I'm explaining it to you. You don't want to engage in it. I will explain it to you. The reason why it's
grotesque. Engage in it.
Okay. The reason why it's grotesque to me in that instance is because it's one thing to sort of like create a thought experiment where you could argue there are instances where torture is a legitimate choice. But it is another to do it.
Torture is not a legitimate, but torture is
I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are, Jesse. In fact, no, Jesse, I am using torture as an example so that you will understand my problem with your writing. I know that you think torture is abhorrent. That's why I'm using this as an example. There's no doubt in my mind that you agree with me totally on this perspective of torture. But let me finish so I can explain to you
my actual work.
I'm going to
my work.
Okay.
Okay, you'll get to it, I guess.
I will. I promise. This is be much quicker. I'll be done by now. In promoting that, in that instance, in a moment when torture is on the front pages of the news, regardless of whether there was merit to the philosophical argument about the value of torture, which I would agree, and I'm convinced that you would think is abhorrent, period. What that article does is it gives cover for people who were promoting torture in places outside of Huffington Post. The writer is basically positing that they have no impact on this public debate, because I believe that if you are writing in this manner and you are promoting ideas in this manner in public, then you must take responsibility not just for the specific content as the letters, but its impact and how it's heard and how it's used in a political struggle that is going on. And I suggest that when you say the Republicans, AGs, who cited my material in the Atlantic, did so and twisted it in a way that it meant something different than it did, that at the very least, you would realize that you are being used as a means to attack trans people and to attack.
But that's why 4 days. But that's why 4 days after they put that brief out, I did a Substack post saying lying about my work.
I'm glad that you did a Substack post. In fact, that's.
Yeah, I'm already kind of frustrated by this whole thing. I would have preferred if out of the gates they did actually just go straight for receipts, because the thing with Jesse is, and again, I'm going to keep providing this link because I've got them all on hand. There is a enormous list of what I would consider to be at its most generous journalistic malpractice on the behalf of Jesse. Now, you don't get to do a thing where you as a journalist, you release a story that goes mainstream, say in The Atlantic or something else, a large publication like that, and then afterwards that story's entire framing is like, hey, by the way, I'm going to talk about this very controversial issue. Transitioning, gender affirming care for children, all this kind of stuff. The first 9,000 words of my article is going to be dedicated not to any single trans person, because again, if we look at the statistics, the meta studies, it seems like less than 1% of it regret it, but not any trans person who was happy with the procedures. But we dedicate this article to talking about the horrors of what can happen when someone is improperly diagnosed with gender dysphoria and undergoes transition. What's that going to do in the middle of this entire culture war right now, quote unquote culture war, by the way, because again, one person's culture war is another person's civil rights. So what effect is it going to have? That's the thing with Jesse Singal. Jesse Singal was doing that kind of shit. And this, by the way, this is the most generous call out of Jesse. Okay, that's where at this point I think you could just admit that the guy is ideologically slanted, that he wants to tell a story and he wants to promote the less than 1% who regret transition and give them the megaphone and be like, this is what's happening and everyone should know about it, instead of, hey, this less than 1% who regret transitioning, and of that 1%, of course, it's usually due to social stigma, they seem to be getting that story amplified all the time amongst, you know, conservative media, centrist media, all that kind of stuff. It would be really, really fucking, unless you had an ideological slant that you wanted to convince people of that perhaps gender affirming care is a bad thing, actually, why would you present it that way? Unless that was your purpose. And if that is your purpose, then be transparent about it. Be open about it. Be clear. Be like, yes, I personally believe that gender affirming care has disastrous consequences. It is medical malpractice, and I want people to stop doing it. That's the purpose of my reporting. Instead of being like, I am just a reporter who's telling the story. And it's like, well, but you're not. Because again, you are taking something that occurs to less than 1% of the people who undergo this very, very potentially life-saving treatment, and you're going to vilify the 99%. That's fucked. And that would have been, again, you can't just do something like that and then afterwards be like, oh, no, but my Substack. No, I went on my Substack and I corrected my mistakes. I said I shouldn't have done this and this, so I was totally transparent. But I was like, okay, cool, good, cool story, bro. Who the fuck is reading your Substack? Do you think the thousands upon thousands of mums and dads who saw that article in The Atlantic in the first place, who suddenly got really, really scared and had dinner conversations with their family members being like, so this whole like trans thing is pretty wild, eh? They're like just using untested like puberty blockers on kids. They don't know the medical ramifications. They're sterilizing them. Everyone thinks this is okay. I'm not talking like from a conservative standpoint. I read this article by Jesse Singal in The Atlantic, okay? And it talked about how dangerous this could be, how some gender affirming clinics, apparently there's like a whistleblower. Yeah, there's a whistleblower, and this whistleblower was saying that people were just basically walking in some kind of rotating carousel style situation where they get in there and then all of a sudden they're giving them everything they want just because they say that they might be gender dysphoric, and then they're signing them up for surgeries. It's like, yeah, this whole thing, like, we've been lied to. The mainstream media lied to us. Thank God we have this article. You know, that's one of. Like, you can also look towards the actual people who Jesse Singal falsely reported on. Like, there are people who have come out now, trans people, who have been like, he completely misrepresented my experience. Like, I can tell you firsthand, this is not what I experienced. This is not what I went through. To me, gender affirming care was life-saving. To me, gender affirming care was enormously beneficial and honestly changed aspects of my life, and I'm better for it. And yet I'm in the Jesse Singal article being referenced and being mischaracterized. Like, that's fucked up. That's just straight up journalistic malpractice. You don't get to then go off and then hide behind your Substack, you know, and then put that layer up there and be like, oh, no, I was still a journalist. I did issue corrections on my Substack. Subscribers know. All right, those who pay to read my articles, if they scroll down in this one, I did issue a small correction where I was like, by the way, this, you know, small little thing may not been exactly what it was about. So there's that.
Same torture guy has a whole page on his, at that time, I think it was Medium, as to why this is being misinterpreted. But do you know how many people saw the HuffPost thing versus saw that Medium thing? This is what we call in sales a funnel. I don't know why I say we, because I'm not in sales, but I read enough about it.
You're saying that a lot of people saw this fairly obscure brief over a technical aspect of Affordable Care Act enforcement. That's your argument, that was like a viral Huffington Post article?
Are you suggesting in any way, Jesse, that your work hasn't been cited over and over again by people saying, like, even the liberal Jesse Singal says that there's something problem here?
I mean, so the problem is that, with all due respect, I explained to you in the email like exactly what they did. My article said
you didn't even say, when I said
parents,
Republican AGs, I specifically asked you. Now, you didn't publish this part of the email. You only published like the first line of it for whatever reason. But I asked you, when I wanted to clarify this and catching up on it, what was defamatory? Because I think your words were straightforwardly defamatory about Matt Leck saying that your lies were cited by Republican AGs. And then you wrote back something about a tweet exchange you had with Matt about conservatives. For whatever reason, you wouldn't.
He also thought it was Matt Binder, by the way. He got that wrong. In the same tweet where he's like, you should fact check Matt Binder. It's like Matt Binder wasn't working that day.
No,
acknowledge that this Republican AG thing was.
No, I know, but we're referring to the same legal document. And I pointed.
Well, I didn't know that because you didn't say anything about that legal. I can read the email right now if you want to clarify that.
Sam, could I?
Because
could I get
it seemed really manipulative of you to pretend that you had explained this to me and saying, you know, when whatever the tweet storm that you were trying to get going, when in fact I said Republican AG and you said conservatives, some conservatives.
Sam, I think you're a little bit trying to talk over me because I'm making a very basic point here.
Okay, go ahead.
Respond or not.
You have the floor.
Okay. I emailed you. I pointed out that this brief said.
No, you did not use the words brief. I did not use. You did not use the words brief, Jesse. That's why.
I mean, Jesse, if you want to get specific, you got specific about the fact that a viewer wrote in and said that you cited one part of this written document by that woman, what was her name, Jamie Reed, that you didn't cite. Yep. And so if we want to be specific, then be specific about what you said to Sam in this email. Okay, let me read this because you're now claiming that you said the word brief or you said the word attorney because I asked you.
Hey, sorry, we've been talking about the same document the whole time. You can either.
Well, I didn't know this.
Why did
I didn't know this. Jesse, I don't know your stuff from Adam. I don't care. I said I'm unclear. Let me make this clear.
You don't know my stuff.
I'll tell you what. We'll put this up because we'll put this up.
Oh, you do know my stuff.
No. We will put up our exchange because you're mischaracterizing our exchange right now, just like you did on Twitter.
I know, but you won't let me. I'm happy to explain it.
Well, no. I get it now because I've had to go back and try and understand what you were talking about.
Now you get it. Okay.
But you are even in this call mischaracterizing our exchange. And this is what you do. This is my experience of you. You keep saying that people misunderstand me, and Sam said he was going to do this and this and that, and you're the one who creates the confusion. I don't know if you do it on purpose or if you do it because you're trying to obscure some agenda. I don't know. I don't care.
I think it's more that I sort of cleared this up 4 years ago, but none of you guys have read that post, and you keep referring to it. And that's why I'm just trying to get
I don't care about that post.
30 seconds. No, I know you don't care about it, but I'm just trying to get 30 seconds to explain what happened, which you can choose not to grant me that 30 seconds, but just.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
Okay. They cited my work to say that gender medicine doesn't help trans adults. My work described that gender medicine as life-saving, and it quoted multiple trans adults who found it life-saving. So you can't read my article.
How late in the piece, Jesse? Have you heard of the principle of journalism where essentially you're supposed to...
Emma.
No. How late into the piece?
Top of the piece.
How late into the piece, Jesse?
Jesse, I'm looking...
9,000 words. 9,000 words. That's the truth.
At this section that you sent me about, like, for sure, trans affirming care. This paragraph, there's 3,500 words in front of it. The section that you clipped for me.
Yeah, so you would think that the more obvious point, just basic rules of journalism.
Well, wait a second,
I know you're a journalist.
I want to hear this.
No.
Was it 3,500 words in, or was it at the top of the piece?
Yeah, which part?
It was 3,500 words into a 12,000 word piece, so it was near the top.
It was in the top 25% of a 12,000 word piece. Okay.
Right. As opposed to, I mean, Jesse, have you not in your work
outside of 25%
emphasize certain specific cases that are outside of the trend of the overwhelming data that shows that gender affirming care for youth is effective and helps reduce suicidal ideation and is important, and that the sister myth essentially is a small edge case? Have you not focused on that a disproportionate amount versus the overwhelming other elements of data that I just described?
Oh, but what you just said isn't true. There isn't overwhelming evidence these treatments.
There is. I'm looking. Okay, have you read the Journal of Pediatrics and their clear results on this front, where they looked at
Or every major medical association in the United States, you piece of shit. You're the journalist. Why'd you need to have call-in shows onto radio shows to be like, well, I don't know if this is true, actually. We do need to keep telling the story of detransitioners because, after all, their story is valid. Yeah, their stories are valid, but why do you focus on that so much? If this is a less than 1% thing, do you not feel that the other 99% deserve to be able to have access to healthcare like everyone else?
children.
Yeah, you're talking about a Jack Turban
years.
paper. I've written two no. So you're talking about Christina Olson's paper, not Jack Turban's paper. I apologize. Christina Olson's paper took a group of kids who transitioned early, social transition.
Yep.
She found that 93% of them 5 years in were still in that socially transitioned role, but none of them were diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So you can't compare that to the question I'm interested in, which is whether these treatments help alleviate gender dysphoria, because we don't know if the kids in Olson's sample had gender dysphoria.
You're using outdated terminology to talk about children who are already socially transitioning and showing that that is effective and they're consistent after that 5-year period in their transition.
This is just an objective matter of fact. What you just said, this is
pedantic. Do you believe that it is. Do you believe that gender affirming care works and is overwhelmingly effective with children? Do you believe it?
I am with the 5 European countries who have looked into this question closely, and all of them are like, we don't know yet. We need more data.
Well, I mean, there it is. I'm going to side with whatever aspect of this discussion basically lines up with my ideology at any given time. Yeah. When it comes to me reporting on this case in America, because I did actually, yeah, the article I wrote was based in America and actually spoke to Americans and American trans people and people who had undergone some form of gender affirming therapy. So yeah, could potentially look into what the research is saying in that country, but I'm going to side myself right now with 5 European countries, which are saying at this moment, they're not sure. I'm not going to go into any more details onto what that statement means because it's pretty vague and open, but
no, it's not established.
Okay.
It is established.
All right. Well, so you don't believe
it's
it. No, but you just changed the question that she asked you.
I'm not
There's
sure
no
yet.
doubt. Listen.
I have to go
we are aware. I am aware that the Dutch protocol is no longer being used in these 5 European countries, and that they're looking at more data. I'm also aware of like hundreds of situations where Europeans and Americans have different protocols, and part of that process in which there is some broad agreement is that doctors work this stuff out. You clearly have an agenda, and you recoil at the idea that people suggest that you have an agenda. Now, you think that your agenda is founded in a science that is not available to other people. And I'm suggesting, I have no problem with doctors.
It's totally available to you guys.
No, you're not. It's available to me now.
It is completely obscure to us because, as you've said on your show.
Sorry, you guys are talking one. Can you just talk one at a time? I can't hear.
Sure.
City speaker.
Because, as you've said on your show, we're doing this just to A, make cash, and B, seen as more righteous than other people. I've listened to at least part of one of your shows. And so I know that you said this. I know you said this, Jesse. I know that you feel this. Now, I do not attribute to you some type of intent. I don't know that you're making cash off this or what it is. I just see what the impact of what you do is, and I think it's reprehensible. And that's it.
Well, but I've already explained to you guys.
No, I'm not just talking about limited to.
You raised of that was misinterpreted, and you changed the debate into. Okay, you did say that, but it wasn't high enough.
Hey, listen, Jesse, I didn't say anything in the beginning. I wouldn't have known about this, and no one would have known about it, except for your insistence that it was straightforwardly defamatory, that you had been cited by Republican AGs, and that what had been cited was lies. And you said to me in an email it was straightforwardly defamatory. I got news for you. You don't know what the word straightforwardly means, and I'm not sure you know what the word defamatory means.
I never claimed to be it could just be you guys are smarter than me on this stuff, but do you think the sentence in that legal brief accurately describes my work? That's all I'm asking.
What sentence?
I don't know.
The sentence that there's no consensus that transition alleviates gender dysphoria. Do you think that accurately describes my
quote? Was that quote from your?
Pull it up. It's right there. We've been.
Was that quote from your piece?
I got a notepad because I was writing a lot of these studies down, and I know it can get confusing, which is why I was trying to emphasize the use of meta-analysis when it comes to this. I would refer people to Regret After Gender Affirmation Surgery, a systematic review and meta-analysis of prevalence. This one looks at 27 studies. It encompasses 7,928 trans patients that underwent any different type of gender-affirming care. It covers the following countries: Canada, the Netherlands, Belgium, UK, Italy, USA, Brazil, Sweden, Singapore, Germany, Norway, Ireland, and Serbia. It found conclusively that there was a less than 1% regret rate for people who underwent gender-affirming care. Now, knowing that, the next thing would be, if I was to write an article on this, and position it in that, hey, there's a debate going on, a culture war, if you will, and this debate is quite heated right now, both amongst the medical community and amongst people who want to have, opinions and such. This debate, we want to say that there are two camps: people who have received gender-affirming care and regret it. So let's promote them and talk about them and tell their stories. Also, people who received it and actually kind of enjoyed parts of it and stuff like that. So we're going to have lots of words, 12,000 words, in fact. Of those 12,000 words, how many words are going to be dedicated to the less than 1%? If it's 9,000, your journalistic piece has a massive ideological slant that you were trying to pass across to your audience. Because someone coming into this who has no idea about any of this, if they read that article and 9,000 of the 12,000 words are dedicated to people who regretted transitioning, well, hell, it'll feel a lot more than 1%. It'll feel like this is a massive problem, that there's a huge thing going on that no one's aware of, that there are just thousands upon thousands of children who are getting misdiagnosed with gender dysphoria, and then they're getting transitioned, and then they're getting mutilated, like all the right-wingers were telling us this entire time. This isn't coming from a right-winger, by the way. It's coming from a centrist lib. And now this centrist lib is being published in The Atlantic. That's not a right-wing publication. Look at this. Hey, oh, look, now they're citing you. Yes, AGs are citing you. Well, there's direct evidence. We have an article here by a Jesse Singal saying this. This is a problem, right? If you were, because he's defending himself and hiding behind this veil of journalism over and over. Look, I'm a journalist. I have to ask questions. At this time, my understanding of this actually aligns with 5 European countries that say we don't know. So my honest opinion on this is we don't know. It's like, okay, well, as a journalist operating in America, writing an American article for Americans where you interview Americans based on medical, interventions that are happening again in America, you might want to look towards, again, every fucking major medical association in the United States which agrees upon this. The list is fucking comprehensive. For you to take that position continuously, it can spell one thing only. There's only one reason why you would do this.
Well, Jesse, then let me just ask you directly once again.
And by the way, one of the frustrating things about this, it's both cathartic and annoying, is that, like, I can see why detractors are already taking this and being like, they never let him speak. Because fair enough, they're going extremely hard. He's not getting a lot of words in edgewise. It does seem like they're kind of steamrolling him from the very get-go on this, because yeah, they clearly are two people like myself who are very frustrated and annoyed with Jesse Singal and the dance, the fucking dance that he's still doing to this day. Clearly, even when called out directly, it's like, well, I actually did issue a correction on that. It's on my Substack. So if you wanted to access that, you just have to be a subscriber on the Substack and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I just think at this moment, the science is kind of inconclusive and we have to side with the 5 European countries that do that kind of stuff. So fair enough. If you were a third party who had no knowledge of the majority report or Jesse Singal, yes, you might approach this thing and be like, oh, it just kind of seemed like those two majority report hosts really yelled over that guy. On the other end, as someone who decidedly fucking cannot stand the lies and deceits, like, to me, I wouldn't be nearly as fucking annoyed with Jesse if he just wore his heart on his sleeve. Be honest, like, I'm literally wearing a shirt that says, hey, this is my opinion on the matter. Yeah, I have a slant. I'm biased. I'm biased as fuck. If I enter a discussion on this topic, yes, I'm coming from a position, luckily it's based in medical science, but a position in which we do need to protect trans people and offer them the same access to medical health care that everyone else just enjoys naturally by being cis. By being a cis person like myself, I don't have to think about this. I don't have to think, well, I wonder how many fucking counselors and psychiatrists I'm going to have to talk to be able to get something that could prevent me from committing suicide. I don't have to worry about that. I don't know how many hoops I have to jump through and how many people I have to convince and how many fucking trials and gatekeepers there's going to be along the way. If I wanted to get gender affirming care, alls I need is money. That's it. If I was like, hey, by the way, it would really affirm my gender to fucking have more hair transplants or get a bigger fucking cock, I want these surgeries, they're going to be like, well, can we ask you a bunch of questions about how long you felt this way? No, they're going to be like, here's the fucking price. Here you go. This is the cost. This is what it's going to cost you. Get in there and get that fucking operation if you can afford it. That's the gatekeeping. That's not fair, in my opinion, in my assessment. I don't think this is the way we should operate as a society. And for people to like fucking operate this way, it's just so fucking greasy to keep hiding behind, but I'm a journalist, but I'm just asking the hard questions that no one else is willing to ask. You were a virtual nobody. No one fucking knew your name. And then all of a sudden you became the champion of the right's fucking war on gender ideology because, oh, well, okay, finally someone has common sense to be able to actually report on this, you know, respectively. People call him a transphobe just because he's willing to ask a couple hard questions. No, motherfucker, people call you transphobe because you're a fucking transphobe. Because if you were to actually be a journalist and look into this, you would have conclusively seen the overwhelming data and evidence when it comes to this topic. This is just one of those things where it's like, you don't have a leg to stand on. You got to keep doing the gotta gaps fucking evolutionary debate where you keep just sidestepping and being like, oh, well, I mean, there are European countries that have now withdrawn their initial protocols. They want to wait for more information and data to come in before they can actually safely say that puberty blockers are completely safe to be used amongst children. And again, it's one of those things where like, have you actually looked into puberty blockers? Did you like, do you know anything about Lupron? Or are you just going to say Lupron and then talk about chemical castration? You're going to be like, well, do you know they actually use Lupron to chemically castrate people? They used to do that to homosexuals. Are you saying that we should be giving that to kids? Well, if you looked at it, guess what? Medications, they have different effects based on how much you take. And yeah, based on that, Viagra's side effects, they're death. You could die. Yes. So if you took too much Viagra, your heart could fucking stop. So yeah, one of the side effects of Viagra is death. Should doctors now completely stop using Viagra whatsoever? Because in smaller doses and quantities, it allows people who have erectile dysfunction to be able to have sex, even though that's a side effect. Could it be that there are safe amounts of these drugs that can be given to children in smaller quantities that can actually hold off a very, very serious decision? And the fucking heart-wrenching thing about when you learn about puberty blockers is that it's to be able to buy you time. It's not something they want to keep kids on. It's not like all of these doctors are really fucking gung-ho and like, oh, we're going to get all these kids on puberty blockers because they're going to make all that fucking bag, baby. No, you're on puberty blockers before you go on HRT. If you go on HRT, they take you off puberty blockers. It's supposed to buy you time to make sure you're making the right fucking choice. It's just so frustrating when you know the science behind this, and these ghouls, these absolute ghouls, keep hiding behind that. They like, that is the only realm they have to use, is to use doubt, to use insecurity, and to use a lack of knowledge as a weapon, to weaponize that against common sense and people who would have the decency to be like, of course we shouldn't deny certain human beings healthcare based on how they were born. On its surface, everyone will say that, right? Well, okay, I don't want to actually present myself that way because it sounds kind of fucked up. Why don't I present myself in such a way that I'm going to be like, well, some people say that there could be dangers and we don't know all the effects and side effects yet, so we should just wait. And it's like, well, that's nice for you, a cis man, to say that, because this doesn't affect you whatsoever. You don't have to worry about going on puberty blockers. You don't have to worry about going on HRT. You don't have to worry about the gatekeeping. You don't have to worry about any of that. You can just have opinions. You can have opinions and get paid handsomely by the right for them. So that's what you get to do on the sidelines and have a great old day while people die. Well, like everyday people who might need life-saving fucking care die.
And do you believe that the established standards of care in the United States are effective and should be implemented to help children as they begin to transition in their youth?
The standards of care say that kids should get like 1 to 2 years of therapy before they transition. So that might be too conservative, but
no,
yeah, something like that.
Okay, so what's the issue?
So then what's the problem?
Those are the new standards of care. The question is whether people are following them.
Okay, well, you know what?
I don't, Emma.
But the evidence that you...
Oh, Lord, no. No. What? I mean, true, when you're prescribed a fucking set of pills, who knows how many someone's going to take at any given time, if they take them at all, or if they take too many, that can happen. Yeah. I mean, it's not as if we monitor people's healthcare at home 24/7 all the time. That is true. That would be a lot of fucking resources. Gotcha. Checkmate.
Shown the Jamie Reed whistleblower, bro, has been discredited over and over again, and you wrote a whole write-up about that.
She hasn't been discredited?
She hasn't. No, not Jamie. Don't do Jamie like this. What are you doing?
Hold on, a couple things. Guys, one thing at a time. Emma.
Wait, she hasn't been discredited?
Can we finish it?
Well, can I just be clear on what you said?
I'm happy to talk to you.
She has not been discredited.
Let me finish my point.
Okay, wait.
Okay, let me finish.
You just said something. I just want to, I was talking over you. I just want to make sure you said it. Jamie Reed has not been discredited in your mind.
I'm happy to address this. I just want to finish up the thing about the standards of care, because I think that's super important, actually.
You didn't say this. I'm just curious about what you said just a couple of seconds ago on this show.
That's fucking Weasley as fuck. Answer the fucking question.
I'd like to finish.
Hey, dude, I got a big guest that's coming up in a minute.
Yeah. Has Jamie Reed been discredited or no?
Emma, it sounds to me that you think kids should get 1 to 2
How
years of
has Jamie
Why won't you answer the question? Because you know the answer.
Reed, who was not intimately involved.
She has not been discredited.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
Okay,
That's interesting because, I mean, we've got to run, but people can look this up. There have been lies over and over proven that she has put out there, which you took at face value.
Emma, when you come on the show, can we just get a little bit more specific about the SSC stuff?
Honestly, dude,
How much more specific can you get than that? I mean, fair enough. If the detractors want to say, hey, by the way, they steamrolled him, they talked over him, fine. Here's a moment, though, that you cannot deny, all right? He's being asked a point-blank question. A question which, at this point, the answer is yes, absolutely. Jamie Reed has been discredited. Thoroughly discredited. So the reason why you won't answer that clearly is because you know the answer, don't you?
I mean, look, I want to engage in good faith, and we have now had this conversation, and to be honest with you, like, I don't back down from anybody, but I really think you should just have a trans person on or an activist or someone of that kind, because I cover a bunch of issues on this program. We cover politics on a daily basis from different perspectives. And
okay, so you're backing out, though, is what you're saying.
Sure. I to be honest with you,
based upon your original complaint to me, I will as a boss, I will suspend her if she goes on your show.
We had a back and forth over email.
You called the manager.
And
I
don't want to give this more life.
You're backing out. It's unfortunate. I was hoping.
See, okay, so I can see why. I'm guessing, I haven't watched it, but like Adam and Stitch, Destiny probably all had a field day with this, being like, oh, they talked over him, they steamrolled him, then they backed out, fucking, this is not fair, blah, 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 bad faith. Okay, fine, it's bad faith. The dude is bad faith. Bad faith meets bad faith, you know? If you won't even answer a fucking direct question, if you won't even answer, by the way, has Jamie Reed been discredited? Okay, well, let me answer that by saying, Emma, do you actually think that puberty... No. Let's rewind. Has Jamie Reed been discredited? Can you get on the record of answer that? Well, I'd like to answer that, but first I'd like to answer this other question about this first. Like, no, what?
Hey, Jesse, if that's what you want to hang your hat on, have a good rest of the week, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, we appreciate the call, Jesse.
Yeah, couldn't care less. Thank you. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been... That debate was more ad hoc. I didn't realize that.
I thought about it for... It's just not... Oh, jeez.
So much for the set.
Yeah, so I just want to quickly run through these receipts. And yes, no, Sharky, I saw your joke. I saw the joke, okay? Jesse Singal completely lied about a trans patient's healthcare to a degree that is such journalistic malpractice that he should drop the title altogether. It is the behavior of a, quote, garbage human being. This is from Cam Ogden. Jesse is lying to his audience about my healthcare. He's using an excerpt from an interview my mother did and implied that I was fast-tracked into transition and accusing trans/media of misrepresenting the SOC by conflating a referral to a clinic with the approval for HRT. Both points are false. First, Singal implies trans support prescribed HRT after a 10-minute meeting. This is obviously untrue. The text he screenshotted says listening to trans youth when they assert themselves is the accepted standard. for which my doctor did. Next, look at the quote Jesse is taking out of context. A substantial amount of time passed between climbing out to my mom and that doctor's visit. I'd actually been seeing a therapist for years, and the doctor had those notes indicating my experience with dysphoria. During those, quote, months of waiting, I met 2 separate psychologists and spoke to them about dysphoria. There aren't any details in the interview about that because it was traumatic, but if Singal wants to actually hear about my experiences, he could have asked me. The DMs are still open. I wasn't approved for hormones, as Singal claims. I was referred to Thrive for an information session and evaluation at their endocrinology clinic. A majority of patients at these clinics don't receive HRT, and here's info from the testimony at the State House. Singal used a cherry-picked quote where my mother was describing her perspective by this time to imply that doctors tried to rush me into treatment that I didn't receive until years later. More than 50,000 people have seen his tweet lying about my doctor's appointments and experiences. I'm pretty emotional about this because my family suffered quite a bit due to his misinformation that he was spreading at the time. It's exactly the assumptions that Singal made initially that prevented my mother from being willing to find the care that was right for me at the time. Singal has no idea what evaluations I have or haven't experienced or received, and when it was pointed out to him he didn't re-examine his position, he doubled down and spread even more misinformation. Please do better in the future. Now, I don't know if Jesse has... but I retracted that in my Substack. If you just search to the bottom of the article, like, I don't know if that's part of it, but who gives a fuck at this point? You should be issuing a full correction. You should be retracting the article itself at this point. Here's an article debunking all the transphobic misinformation. This one is by Aaron in the Morning. It's a great collection. I highly recommend it. There's an entire article on Glad about Jesse Singal and all of the times that he has performed this. He continuously does the song and dance where he is simply positioning himself in such a way that he wants to present both sides of a debate, when really you are presenting one side of a debate way more than another side, and that other side of the debate again is a less than 1% regret rate that you were choosing to platform immensely in your articles, and then trying to say, well, but I am a journalist, I hide behind my journalism. There's multiple articles detailing how Jesse Singal promotes gender critical styles, tactics, only platforming the less than 1% of people who experience regret after transition. There's a reason he's cited by the GOP so much, and also there's an entire article on Transgender Map about Singal and all of the things that he's been doing, including promoting the fringe ex-transgender movement, supporting disease models of gender identity and expression, supporting gatekeeping models for healthcare for minors, criticizing expert medical and scientific consensus on healthcare for minors, amplifying outliers and edge cases and controversies to derail broader discussions, undermining critics, especially transgender diverse critics, getting support from anti-transgender activists, media figures, professionals, legislators, amongst others. The guy is a motherfucking transphobe of the highest order. I present to the courtroom an overwhelming amount of evidence, receipts. Goddamn, he's a piece of shit. Like, I guess it sucks that a couple centrists and a couple libs feel that this really vindicated Jesse and that he got steamrolled on the majority report. The guy's bad faith. He is a bad faith actor, and if he's treated in bad faith, I would say that's entirely fair. To be honest, at this point, to have someone who even refuses to answer a very basic question, has Jamie Reed been discredited? When the answer is yes, she has been discredited, thoroughly discredited at this point. The whole thing, like, it's been a massive fucking holy shit that they ever lie about this.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Laminia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.